Welcome to the Story Times. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe this channel. That's helped me to make me motivated for another stories. Thanks. Hey, I am Ethan Carter, an ordinary man with a life that seemed perfect. I have a stable career as a lawyer in Chicago, a spacious house that I proudly built from scratch, and my wife, Sophia, whom I trusted and loved. She was my world. Everything began to change on a peaceful Saturday morning when the sky in Chicago suddenly turned rainy without any warning. I've always loved golf, and that morning, I decided to leave early to enjoy a round on the course. Though the sky wasn't exactly clear, I thought the rain would be just a small inconvenience. Golf was always my escape, the place where I could unwind from work stress. The feeling of standing on the course, hitting each shot with precision, made me forget all worries. But that day, I could not have imagined that instead of finding peace, I would stumble upon something I never wanted to see in my life. The rain started coming down heavily as I was on the third hole. I decided to cut my game short and head home. A strange feeling stirred inside me as I drove back, but I couldn't explain it. It was just a vague, unclear sensation. When I got home, everything was quiet. That was the first thing that made me feel something was wrong. Sophia always called me her love when I came home late, but today there was no call. The garage door was open, but no car was parked in the driveway. Everything felt eerily silent. I walked in through the back door, and as soon as I entered the living room, I froze. Sophia was lying on the sofa, wearing only underwear, sitting next to Daniel Scott, her colleague, whom I had always considered a friend. He was no better off, only wearing boxers, sitting close to her, their eyes locked in an intimate gaze. Every movement, every glance between them felt like a stab to my heart, shattering the perfect image I had built of our family life. I stood there, unable to speak, as Sophia saw me. She wasn't scared at all. She simply stood up, brushed her hair, and looked at me with cold eyes, as though I were the one who had caused all of this. "Aren't you going to say anything?" Sophia asked, her tone sarcastic and challenging. I couldn't speak. All I could do was look at them, then back down at my hands. The rain outside still poured, but inside me, it was the fiercest storm I could ever imagine. Everything seemed to freeze, each second stretching into painful moments that couldn't be undone. The only words I could muster in that moment were, "Get out." Daniel quickly threw on his clothes and bolted out without saying a word. Sophia stayed where she was, still unfazed. She just stared at me with eyes filled with sorrow, but showed no sign of regret. "Don't you have anything to say?" she asked again, unshaken. I gritted my teeth, saying each word slowly, "Get out. I'll pack your things and leave them in the garage. You can pick them up later." She opened her mouth, but I didn't want to hear it anymore. Everything was crystal clear now. Go with him. I'm calling his wife. My head was spinning, but I turned away, leaving her standing there, alone. When I dialed Daniel's wife, Rachel, my heart tightened. The feeling was indescribable. Rachel picked up the phone, her voice calm, but betraying her anger. "Thanks for calling me. I had a feeling something was wrong, but I never imagined it would be like this," Rachel said, her voice cold yet resolute. "We've both been betrayed. She's cheated on me, and I'll do everything to make them pay." I responded, my voice filled with rage. I don't remember what I did next. All I know is that Rachel and I made a plan for revenge, and it started right then, each moment after calling Rachel. I felt like everything was drowning in silence. The rain outside kept intensifying, like a sign of the chaos I was about to face. I didn't know what to do, but a part of me felt calm. At least now, I knew the truth. Both Rachel and I no longer had time for doubt. We didn't need many words. We just needed to act. After hanging up, I walked to my office and opened my computer, digging through the emails, messages, and videos I had found in Sophia's account. These pieces of evidence, though already clear, still needed to be confirmed. Rachel didn't say much when she arrived at my house. She simply nodded when I showed her the documents. Her eyes no longer held any pity or surprise, just pure fury. "We need to do this the right way. We can't let them get away," Rachel said, her tone calm but full of determination. We were both in this together, and I knew I couldn't just sit back. Rachel started looking into Sophia's financial situation, while I focused on gathering more evidence, not just emails and videos, but the information that neither Daniel nor Sophia could ever imagine. Every phone call, every meeting could be an important piece of the perfect plan we were building. For the next few hours, Rachel and I worked side by side. The world outside kept turning, but inside me, my world had shattered. I couldn't imagine it, but at this moment, I had to do things I had never considered before. My self-respect, my patience, all the things that had built this life were suddenly things I didn't need anymore. The only thing I needed now was revenge, and I wouldn't stop until everything was arranged according to my will. I called Sarah, Sophia's best friend, to ask what she knew. Though Laura wasn't directly involved in Sophia and Daniel's affair, she was the only one who could help me access Sophia's social circles. Laura had always been a reliable friend to Sophia. That's why it frustrated me even more that she knew about this and said nothing. But in this situation, I understood that each of us had our own reasons. The conversation with Laura was quick, and I got some valuable advice. Remember, Sophia always keeps everything under control, Ethan. Don't let her think you'll just let this go. She might be trying to regain control of the situation. When Laura left, I returned to my plans. We weren't going to let Sophia and Daniel get away with this deception. No, they would have to pay. Although I wasn't the only one betrayed, I was the one who would make them pay. Laura helped me look for more evidence and information about the bank accounts, credit cards Sophia had used to hide transactions with Daniel. I recalled Sophia's business trips, the nights she went out when I wasn't around. She always said she had work, but now I realized it was all lies. Don't let her outsmart us again, Rachel reminded me. I nodded and started preparing everything for the upcoming confrontation. I reached out to a lawyer I trusted to prepare the necessary documents. Both Rachel and I understood this couldn't be a run-of-the-mill legal battle. Everything had to be meticulously planned. Every move we made would be calculated carefully, and I wasn't going to let anyone in this situation regret their actions. Once I finished gathering the evidence, Rachel and I decided to meet at a cafe near my house. We sat across from each other, and with just one glance, we knew we were doing the right thing. The coffee had gone cold as we exchanged final details about our plan. Rachel pulled out a stack of documents filled with financial information about Daniel and Sophia that we had uncovered. These numbers would be crucial in our legal fight. We'll begin next week when everything is ready, Rachel said, her eyes gleaming with a cold look. Neither Sophia nor Daniel will escape what they've done. I looked at her, a strange feeling rising in my chest. I didn't know where I stood in this relationship anymore, but the only thing I knew was that I would never go back. When you've been betrayed, nothing can make you forgive. Revenge isn't just about proving your strength, it's about restoring the self-respect that was shattered. I decided to call Daniel to threaten him. What I said wasn't a mere warning. If you keep avoiding this, I won't hesitate to expose everything, and you don't want me to do that. The feeling of taking control eased some of the tension, though the pain hadn't subsided. Both Sophia and Daniel would pay. I was determined. Everything was said, but I still couldn't shake the suffocating feeling in my chest whenever I thought about the next step. This fight wasn't just about property or reputation. It was a punishment for everything Sophia and Daniel had done. We couldn't let them continue living in their seemingly perfect bubble. They had to pay. On a cloudy, windy afternoon, Rachel and I met at the cafe near my house. We had no time for small talk or pleasantries. Everything had to be carefully prepared. Rachel had brought a thick folder filled with detailed information about both Sophia and Daniel, illegal transactions, and the secret money transfers into hidden accounts. "Are you ready for everything?" Rachel asked, her voice cold but determined. She always knew how to make me feel like I had a strong team behind me. "Yes," I replied, staring directly at her. "But I can't do this alone. He, Daniel, needs to know that I'm not someone who can be easily fooled." Rachel nodded, a sneer forming as she thought about Daniel. "He won't have anything left to deceive us with. I've also prepared a heavy financial blow for him. We're not just going to take back what we lost, but make them regret ever hurting us." I couldn't help but smile at Rachel's determination. She wasn't just a friend. She was a true warrior. We had carefully mapped out the next steps. In a few hours, we would meet at an upscale restaurant, where Daniel would attend an important meeting with some business partners. It would be the perfect opportunity to start. Our plan wasn't just about confronting them with words. We would make them feel like every step they took was being watched. Rachel had prepared a recording device and a camera, while I would prepare all the documents and evidence to expose Sophia and Daniel's wrongdoings in front of the people who mattered most in their lives. Finally, the moment arrived. Rachel and I walked into the restaurant, passing by the elegant tables where warm golden lights reflected in our cold eyes. Daniel was sitting in a far corner of the room, talking with his partners. It felt like a play was slowly unfolding. "He doesn't know what he's about to face," Rachel whispered, her smile hiding a cold confidence. We sat at a table not far from them, close enough to observe Daniel's every move without drawing attention. Rachel started the camera, while I quietly arranged the documents. Everything was perfectly planned. Every move we made had purpose and intention. After a while of sitting in silence, Daniel finally noticed us. He stopped talking and looked in our direction. His eyes flashed with confusion, but I couldn't see any sign of remorse in them. Instead, all I saw was the smugness of someone who still thought they could win. "Ethan," Daniel spoke, his voice somewhat challenging. "You seem like you want something. You don't have to pretend anymore, Daniel." "Everything I need is already prepared," I answered. My voice as cold as ice. Rachel sat silently, not saying a word. She just observed. No further words were needed. Everything was already clear. "What?" Daniel asked, his face surprised but still unable to hide the fear. He started looking around, as if trying to find a way to escape. "You don't have to worry," I continued. "It will be easy if you cooperate. Hand over all the information about your transactions with Sophia. If not, we'll release these videos and emails. Both you and she won't have a penny left to spend." I placed a stack of documents on the table and Rachel handed me the recorder. Everything had been recorded, ready to be sent when needed. Daniel looked at the documents and confusion began to show on his face. He stiffened, unable to argue. Finally, Daniel stood up, hurriedly left without saying another word. He was no longer the confident man I had once known, now just a coward running from the truth. Confronting Daniel was only part of our plan. When Daniel left, Rachel and I continued our journey. Soon after, Sophia started calling me, her voice thick with tears. She seemed remorseful, wanting to come back, wanting to reclaim everything. But I would never believe her words again. "You had your chance, Sophia," I said, my voice cold. "And I've made my decision. I no longer feel anything for you." I didn't stop there. My assets and rights needed to be protected. I went to meet with my lawyer and started the process of dividing the assets. The videos and evidence I had gathered had become powerful weapons in my hands. Not just Sophia. Even Daniel couldn't escape this punishment. The court would show no mercy to the betrayers. What Sophia and Daniel thought was a final victory now only turned into a bitter ending for both of them. The legal battle was never easy, but I knew I had prepared the best I could. Every detail in the plan was carefully calculated, and I wasn't going to let my emotions cloud my decisions. The next step in my revenge wasn't just about money. It was about making Sophia and Daniel understand that betrayal would not go unpunished. After leaving the cafe, Rachel and I couldn't stop. Everything had to be executed perfectly because I didn't want to leave any connection between them. All that remained was to find a way to completely end this relationship, making sure it was nothing at all. I began preparing for the meeting with my lawyer. The next steps would decide everything. The next day, I went to the lawyer's office with all the documents and evidence in hand. The evidence I had prepared wasn't just videos or emails. It was a complete financial map of the accounts Sophia and Daniel had secretly opened, shady transactions, and money transfers into accounts they thought would go unnoticed. When I placed the documents on the table, my lawyer looked at me with an impressed gaze. "Ethan, I have to say you've prepared very thoroughly. These pieces of evidence are enough to leave them with no way out." I smiled, but inside I felt empty. There was no joy here. Everything was just a part of the plan to ensure justice for myself. "This is just the beginning," I replied. "We still have a bigger task ahead." I wasn't the only one betrayed in this story. Daniel didn't just deceive me. He also betrayed his wife. He couldn't escape the consequences I would bring. Every phone call of mine, every meeting, all were steps preparing for the perfect revenge. We had planned the asset division perfectly. Sophia thought she would get a large share of the fight, but she didn't know that I had controlled everything. I started putting all the documents I had collected into the property dispute, and my lawyer immediately requested the court to review the investments Sophia had made during our marriage. Every move she made was now being watched, and I wasn't going to let any opportunity slip through my fingers. The court proceedings began, and the legal battles continued. Sophia was no longer the woman I once loved. She had become someone I wanted to make suffer. Every time she called to beg, I only felt disgust in my heart. Her words couldn't change anything. Everything had ended the moment she betrayed me. Things started to get tense when Sophia received notice from my lawyer about the property division. She couldn't believe what was happening. With each passing day, she grew more frantic, but I had no sympathy. She could cry and beg, but all I wanted was justice. Meanwhile, Daniel, the one I never thought would face consequences, was now trembling. A part of me felt satisfaction as I saw the fear in his eyes. I wasn't someone who easily forgave, especially when everything was so clear. They both had deceived me, and now they would pay. As time went on, I began to feel my life being restored. Every meeting with my lawyer, every call with Rachel brought me a sense of satisfaction that was hard to describe, but it wasn't the satisfaction of a petty revenge. It was the feeling of a man who had regained his power and self-respect. When the court issued its ruling, everything seemed to be coming to an end. Sophia and Daniel were no longer the winners. They were backed into a corner. Sophia's calls for reconciliation were no longer pleas for forgiveness, but desperate cries for help. She had nothing left to lose, and in the end, she had to face the reality. "Ethan, you can't do this," Sophia said in a final call. Her voice sounded broken, powerless. "This is what you chose, Sophia," I replied coldly. "You and Daniel both have to pay. Don't expect any mercy." The court decided to divide the assets fairly. I didn't take everything, but I didn't leave Sophia and Daniel with anything but the price they had to pay. All the money and assets they had intentionally hidden were now exposed, and I only took back what I truly deserved. When everything was over, I stood in the empty house. Everything had changed, and I knew that, despite the losses, I had found peace again. I would never forget how I felt when I saw Sophia and Daniel facing each other in court when their secrets were brought into the light. But above all, I realized one important thing. Not every battle is won with revenge, but by holding on to your dignity and taking control of your life. Betrayal can break you, but only if you allow it. If you know how to stand up and face it, you will always be the ultimate winner. And so we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.